And finally, the boys have been released, and Nigerians have heaved a sigh of relief once again. We will be talking about that episode on our package today. Suleiman has put together something that will tell us how it started and where we are now. Suleiman Babajia Usman worked relentlessly to bring us a detailed package of how it began and where we are now.
Friday, the 11th day of December 2020, will not be forgotten in a hurry for the abducted students of Government Science Secondary School, Kankara, Katsina State. It is said that the bandits arrived at the school at about 9:45 p.m. Confusion descended as the police officers at the scene exchanged fire with the bandits. The students ran for their lives. A terrifying night that rattled the entire community and sent shockwaves around the country. Some were quick to reference the 20
in whatever we do. This country is our country. We don't have any other country that we can salvage except our country, Nigeria. And therefore, if such situation happen, we shouldn't politicize it. Rather, we should see a way to unite to fight this evil, because it is really bringing our country back. While our leaders are working day in, day out to see how to move this country forward, we should not watch and fold our hands, see that some miscreants are trying to bring the country and economy down.
As the parents and Kankara community celebrate the return of 344 students, Nigerians will continue to challenge the government to do everything necessary to put an end to all elements fanning the embers of insecurity in the country.
Many thanks, Suleiman Babajia Usman. That was in depth. And we have a deeper understanding of where we are now. Francis Ogbe put together an overview talking about rural to urban migration, talking about its impact on our population and lots more.
It is estimated that India, China, and Nigeria in that order will have the biggest population by the year 2100. Overpopulation is the reason for high level of illiteracy, widespread unemployment, poverty, and violent crime.
We need to be careful. The explosion may bring a lot of negative impact on Nigeria, especially on our infrastructure. Already in the area of housing, you see that in the city, the prices of houses are coming up. To rent, to buy, is at the higher side. So people go to where? To the suburb. Who is taking care of the infrastructure even at the suburb? The suburb is full of crisis. No road, no water. For them to even come to town on Monday, you'll be wondering, why must every one of us come to the city to work? Can't somebody put one of the ministry or parastatal around that area so that all of us will not be coming at the same time?
Ironically, it is in the very poorest countries that women have the most children on the average. However, it is a common knowledge that the more educated a woman is, the fewer children she will bear. There is therefore an urgent need to increase the enrollment of girls in primary and secondary schools, especially in the most vulnerable areas.
When you think about girl education, we need to do that. But even when you educate the girl, so why are we not also educating the man? Who is the head of the house? Is it not the man? So it's not only the girl child that need to be enlightened. All of us need to be enlightened. We need to do more in the area of family planning education. If possible, we should introduce the implication of all this right in our secondary school curriculum.
Population control has been an extremely hard nut to crack, as most people, especially the proliterate, believe that children are gifts from God, and as such, they should perpetually be open to life.
Children are gifts from God, but not to the level of having the number that you cannot accommodate. Come, you are not helping yourself as a father. If you can only afford, when you cannot afford a school fee for 3 children, and you put yourself in the responsibility of borrowing money around to pay for 3 children, why can't you have 2 and be able to take care of them? Then you yourself will not have peace of mind. You yourself will enjoy your life before you go and meet God. So indirectly, all that we need to do is to enlighten people. Then they know the implication.
Nigeria needs to take urgent steps to curb its rising population and tackle poverty. Addressing birth rate through a mix of women empowerment, education opportunities, birth control clinics, and public enlightenment will make a difference.
Our villages need health center. Our villages need school. Our villages need 1 or 2 commercial business that people can be doing that will discourage them from coming to the city. Our villages also need more service centers that will prevent people from moving to the city. To solve the problem of population, we need to embark on more industrialization. If we can do more in the area of industrialization, if we can do more in the area of housing, come, let me tell you, the effect of housing is so much in the area of job creation. The carpenter, the bricklayer, the weather, even the Okada rider, even the woman selling little food for those artisans. Establishing housing or embarking on housing projects in major area will help. And also it will also create a place for people to live. If people can live well and they have a little job, you can be sure that their way of life will be changed and they will not take to crime.
With the rate of population increase in Nigeria, if nothing is done, time will come when it will result to environmental hazards, malnutrition and other infectious diseases. Therefore, our focus on Weekend Deal today is to take a critical look at the increasing danger of population explosion in Nigeria and its implication to available food supply and social infrastructures.
Many thanks, Francis. And now, more than ever before, many a clamor for more development and growth in our rural areas. NTA Kaduna packaged something for us to learn from today. They're talking about the effect of rural to urban migration, its impact on food security, as it were.
With an estimated population of 206 million people, the Nigerian population is constantly on the rise, according to the National Population Commission, NPC. Considering the dwindling financial fortunes in the country, one of which is due to the fall in global oil prices, there is need for policymakers at the federal and state levels to take a critical look at the population growth. Rural-urban migration is the movement of people from rural areas to urban areas in search of greener pastures. What is the general impact of this migration?
Rural-urban migration results from the challenges that the rural people usually experience for their inability to access for better condition of their livelihoods. If you look at the bulk of the people or the majority of people that migrate from the rural areas to the urban areas are largely the youths. The youths in the rural areas are usually considered as farmers because majority of them are likely not to have access to education. So for that reason, their condition is tied to agriculture.
Considering the quality and quantity of infrastructure, sustenance and food security, how will these migrants fare in rural areas?
When the labor force that is supposed to be or to engage in farming activities in the rural areas had migrated to the city, they leave their communities without people that will be engaged in the farming activities. Largely, what they produce could be seen as subsistence agriculture because in most cases they don't have the farming input that will enable them engage in a large scale. So the few ones that will remain there will not even produce enough to sustain them in the village, not to talk of even supplying to the urban areas. Therefore, the people in the village are vulnerable to food insecurity, and even those in the city will suffer the same consequences because the food supply will not be sufficient.
Experts say, if not properly checked, Nigeria might run further into economic, social, and security challenges as the population in urban areas continue to rise. What then is the way forward?
Population should be what? Should be reduced or should be reduced drastically or cut so that the little income that is coming will enable the per capita income to rise so that the poverty level of individuals will be reduced. That is one. Secondly, the few populated people should be engaged in one activity or the other that will generate income for them so that they will be able to get what to eat in a day. If not, the few ones that are engaged and are earning higher income may likely suffer in the hands of the majority that are earning nothing.
What should be done to minimize the level of migration to urban areas?
Rural-urban migration should not be encouraged because the urban area already is overstretched. It's overstretched in the sense that the infrastructure in terms of housing facilities, in terms of roads, in terms of power supply, and all of that are not sufficiently enough for the existing people in the urban areas. By the time those in the villages that are seen as the engine of economic growth move to the city, then they will overstretch the existing structure more, and it will cause a problem. That's from the infrastructure.
Going by all this, if the government can step in and provide all the necessary needs in the rural areas, it is believed that rural-urban migration will be reduced to its barest minimum.
We must continue to work, plan with foresight and relentless optimism while moving forward. We now touch base with NTA Abuja. It's no secret that there's a master plan for the Federal Capital Territory. But what NTA Abuja is giving us more insight into today is that perhaps there may have been a distortion somewhere along the line. But let them tell us more.
Abuja is one of the fastest growing cities in the world. In 1992, it was rated as one of the most beautiful cities. In 1976, the Abuja Master Plan was awarded under the military government headed by late General Murtala Mohammed. It came out of the need to create a new federal capital outside the existing one, Lagos, which had become almost unmanageable due to the population pressure.
The Abuja Master Plan is based on a concept. We call it the neighborhood concept. By the design of the master plan, residents are not supposed to walk more than a kilometer to get whatever service they require. So the master plan is a complete guide on how the FCT should be developed.
Population census carried out in 1991 indicated that Abuja accommodated about 1.2 million people. Between 1991 and 2004, the population of the people in the capital city had grown, causing a distortion to the master plan.
The first phase was well developed. That is the Garikis, the Wuses, and these are the first phase. Yeah, but gradually the second phase, that was when the master plan distortion started. The second phase has not been finished developing, and fourth phase started. And Nigerians were used to settling in their regional headquarters. But for Lagos was an exception because of the business interest. People were not interested in coming to Abuja. Until perhaps in 1999, when democracy came, the politicians will arrive at Abuja. They don't go again. And then gradually the city started growing. And the rate of growth in terms of infrastructural development did not meet the population growth. Then from there we enter the period of religious crisis in parts of the north. And all these crises make people to leave those once beautiful areas. People started trooping in the Abuja. Some government officials openly and with every impunity allow certain distortions to take place. In most cases, see people who are distorting the master plan and they will leave them. And gradually they say, oh, these are original settlers.
Yes, there are some distortions to a certain extent. There are emerging realities on ground that necessitated the violations of this master, or the additions or the corrections. When the master plan was designed, we didn't envisage we will have GSM masts all over. Now there are emerging trends. We didn't envisage about solar energy and alternative energy. We didn't have issues of climate change. We have issues of climate change now. And also, there are some deviations as a result of government policies. Policies are changing in view of emerging realities. The issues of movement of government came in suddenly. So phase one was not completely 100% developed. We moved into phase two because of pressure of requirements of government, requirements of people coming in for then to phase 3, then to phase 4. And the development of infrastructure is behind lack of adequate funding, lack of the systematic plan, lack of the implementation of resettlement policies as when due. And because of the disjointed developments all over, people feel that we are violating.
There's a very serious need to review policies in order to avert the imminent lull currently experienced in realizing the Abuja Master Plan.
By now, that Abuja Master Plan will have been upgraded, reviewed, and then in line with the realities of the moment. The reality of today is not the reality of 1976. All you do is that we will do a kind of urban management and urban renewal system. If you renew it, continuously renew it in line with the realities of the moment, and then manage it, the development control needs to be strong.
We keep on reviewing this, yes, and readjusting to accommodate as much as possible. Now we have additional phase 5, between the city gate and the area institutional and research up to the airport. Our designs then will not accommodate this. We have to review. So master plan is subject to review.
Many thanks, Orirunsa. She put together that feature on the discussion of the master plan of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. We move on. And NL Noble is taking us along this very interesting ride this time. We're talking about the employability or not of Nigerian graduates.
Education is the bedrock of growth of any civilization, especially any nation. And as with most countries in the sub-Saharan Africa, Nigeria's educational sector budgetary provision fall far below the United Nations Educational and Cultural Scientific Organization, UNESCO's recommended benchmark. This has, in turn, adversely affected the output in terms of teaching. This has also led to incessant strikes at the drop of a hat, keeping students away from the classroom for several months. Ultimately, this has affected the quality of graduates from tertiary institutions.
Nigeria is growing. We are created. We're human beings. We're supposed to be giving birth and we should be increasing in population. And if a nation does not have people, she is prone to external attacks. So our population is supposed to be an advantage. Other international statisticians will be coming up with a lot of data to define our population for us. Some people are saying that Nigeria has a population of about 200 million people. And when you talk about 200 million people, yes, we should be able to cater for these people. We should be able to plan ahead for these people. We should be able to have budget allocation that cater for the needs of educational system in the country. But that is not the situation we find ourselves, and that's why we have issues in the country.
Today, many Nigerian graduates are not only unemployed but unemployable, as their skills are largely divorced from the labor requirements.
Paper without personal attribute, without self-discovery, without ability to interact with our environment, without ability to gather skills, without ability to have knowledge, without ability to have understanding in order to deal with the challenges of our environment, you will discover that you are going to be nothing rather than a liability. In fact, recently we conducted interview, and then 3 graduates with fantastic CV. You need to see the way the CV is well garnished. With the help of computer, they put in 1 or 2 things and they thought the paper is what is needed. The CV is just a paper, and when we went through the paper, we discovered that it has nothing to, that it does not resemble the person. And so we were left with this confusion. What are we going to do? 3 of them, none of them is picked. None of them was picked for the program, for the position. The reason is because there is nothing that is desirable from within that the organization can depend on and solve its problem.
Unfortunately, there is no end in sight to this nightmare of Nigeria's graduates, no thanks to the triple factors of high birth rates, ever rising enrollment in tertiary institutions, and economic underdevelopment.
We discovered that we need to improve on our curriculum. Why don't we just work on it? Why don't we just work on it? When we were in the university, there's this general studies courses, and these gens courses. Recently somebody told me that they now do entrepreneurship as a gens course. And this is improvement. This is beautiful. That's why in secondary school now you discover that they learn civic education, whether they are science students or art students, yes. And the reason is because they need to be equipped to meet up with the challenges of policy formulations, because you can just read medicine and just see yourself a politician sitting in government office. You can be a commissioner of education or something. And then here you are thinking you are a science student, but you are now faced with social issues and social analysis, and you have to come up with pragmatic solution to the issues and challenges of our society.
To address the challenge arising from the population upsurge in our educational system, there is a need for authorities concerned to take a critical look at the curriculum and change the narrative towards producing hands-on graduates who can take the bull by the horn and think outside the box as entrepreneurs and creative minds.
Many thanks, Enel Noble, for that impact assessment on the employability or not of our graduates in Nigeria. It behoves guardians and parents to also prepare their wards and children for the future, because the parents are already living in it. We know what is out there. So we need to prepare them outside of the classroom. And that way, perhaps when they come out of school, they will not be experiencing shockwaves after shockwaves. You're watching Weekend Deal. You do know our program is interactive. We expect to hear from you. Tell us what you're thinking. Tell us what your experiences are. Tell us about your thought process. Let's talk about the impact of rising population on food security. This package reaches us from Borno State.
The nexus between migration, socio-economic development, and food security, among others, is a major challenge today. Migration has been a key human response to environmental, social, political, and economic changes. However, rural-urban migration has affected agriculture in Nigeria. The rural sector is known to be the principal market for domestic and raw materials for industrial process and food supply.
Movement has been massively into Maiduguri, and because it was a movement that occurred, simultaneously because of the insurgency, people were displaced, so it was not possible to say that there was any plan, to receive this huge population in the city. So actually, it exerted a lot of pressure on available food supply, and therefore it has serious implication for food security.
The center that has been overpopulated, ab initio, you now add to the population. Aside from adding to the population again, you add to your part consumption level now of the facilities existing will be high. Then how do center cope? We have 10 boreholes, 20 hospitals, 10 schools, servicing about 20,000 inhabitants. Now we have additional 20,000. There is social infrastructure explosion there. It will affect those facilities there. So definitely, food security is a key here. Key in the sense that in as much as you left your farmland unproductive there, and you come to this place where people do not farm, then how do you bridge the gap? You can only bridge where you bring from outside. That outside, where is it? We have all the borders are not safe. You cannot live from here to Damaturu too. So if that is the case, very soon, if care is not taken, the people around here will find it difficult to survive.
People will live anywhere, not because of the place, but because of the future and safety they see in that place. As everyone moves in the direction of the future and safety he sees, the security challenges in Borno State has caused many to drift to the state capital from the rural areas for safety. How then has this affected the agricultural sector in Borno State?
Generally, the occupation of the people in the rural areas is farming. Now, of course, it has been grossly affected due to one, the insecurity. We know how insecurity has affected the state generally, especially in our northern part of the state. People have moved out of those areas into the urban area. This is what our amiable governor, Professor Babagana Umara Zulum, is doing all along. Since his swearing in, he has taken the challenge of moving our people from the IDP camps.
The introduction of the agro rangers actually is a good attempt. So we are hoping for the best. Maybe in the future, it will help in controlling this menace.
Government has started the issue of resettling people, getting people back to their ancestral homes, take over their farmlands, give them the enabling environment, to continue to produce. And then there is also the need for us to modernize our own agricultural, sector. Provision of tractors, provision of modern farm implements, and then provision of modern seeds and things that can enhance agricultural productivity.
Food production is as important as energy, as security, as environment. Everything is linked together. Therefore, more attention should be given to it.
Talking about a rising population and its impact on food security. Well done, Sule. And that brings us to our chat with our guest, Mike Ejiofor, a security consultant and a former director with DSS. Great to have you join us on Weekend Deal.
Thank you very much for having me.
You just saw a bit of that feature, talking about the impact a rising population has on food security. As the population continues to grow, 10 years back, perhaps we're like 150 million, 120 million, and now we hear words being bandied about like 200, 180, 170. But the population of Nigeria is growing. That's a fact. Does it have an impact on food security?
Well, why not? You see, what we have, as big as we are for over 60 years now, we've not been able to know our population. All this they are doing is projection. When last did we have our census? And it becomes a problem if a country cannot know the number of people in the country. How do you plan? You can't plan without knowing your population. And we're having population explosion, coupled with a lot of security challenges. People are not going to the farms. You can see the last incident in Borno, where farmers were beheaded, and top government functionary came out to tell us that they have to take permission before going to the farm. It's embarrassing. Then you go to the south. People are afraid to go to the farm. There is no way we can have any meaningful development in Nigeria without security. So we should prioritize our security architecture to see that people are safe. Coming to the food security, just like I said, we have people not going to farm, population explosion, and there you still have a lot of security challenges. It's not only food security. People cannot move out freely.
But for now, we're still eating. There's foods in the markets. We go shopping, we get edibles to buy. Are you saying there will come a time where we may go to the market and there'll be no food if things continue like this?
Well, you see, Nigeria is a country of contradictions. Unfortunately, God has a way of intervening in Nigeria's problem. Otherwise, we would have come to a stage. You remember, I think it was on that NPN that somebody said Nigerians are not suffering because they are not eating from the dustbin or waste bin. Now, we don't have to wait. We have to take an aggressive policy and plans to ensure that if we continue like this, I'm afraid in the next few years, people will not eat. Perhaps we'll turn to cannibals. people eating up themselves because there's no food in the market. It's a big challenge. And government must take decisive action because they say an angry man, a hungry man is an angry man.
And we don't want to get people angry.
It will get to a point that people are hungry, they now begin to rise against government. You remember what happened at the NSAS movement? It was provocation of a situation that people have been tolerating.
Let's look at our technology, the state of Nigeria's technology in terms of security and giving us the strength to be able to combat challenges that will come up. We talk about CCTV, which is a norm in other countries, other climes, and we go to these places and we see what happens when things like what happened in Katsina may take place. These things, the CCTV, the biometrics, they could be advantageous to us, wouldn't you say?
Well, you see, the problem again is there's no way we can move forward without technological support. I recall that over $400 million was used for installation of CCTV in Abuja and Lagos. And as we speak, none is working. Nobody has said anything. How was the money spent? So, with all this technology, I think we should have been able to assist us in at least locating criminals or helping us in investigation where crime takes place. But now, we don't have that. You see how the American that was kidnapped in Niger was rescued and the people killed. It's just out of technology. If we don't have that backup, then there's no way. Then coming to the population, now you have national identity card management, driver's license, name them, tax identification.
We have data now.
You have that data, but again, in that data, where is it stored? These are duplications. We're supposed to have a central database that when somebody commits an offense, in terms of like a driver commits a traffic offense, you don't need to go begin look for the driver's license. You look into
I think
the
that's
record
what
and
NIMSI
you see all
take care of.
You see all the details of that person, whether he has been convicted. You harness them with the prisons.
Before we wrap up our conversation, I would like to say this, because I'm a Nigerian, I'm in the populace, I'm part of this population who may not often be encouraged to see something and say something. Some people have said in the past that when they sought to help, there was no succor for themselves and their families. People are afraid to speak up because they doubt that they will have adequate protection in the long run. Is that a fact?
It's not a fact. Yes, before, if you go to the police station and see the younger police officers and give information, they work on it. At times they compromise it. Even the people making the report come out to boast, yes, you see what police will do to you tomorrow. The person making the report, is it the police that went and exposed that person? Say, you see, you go and tell somebody, tomorrow, that man will be picked up and we're going to deal with it. That is how somebody says, don't tell anybody. Then another person will go, don't tell anybody. It's spreading. And not just there. We have lines now, dedicated lines. The SSS, the police, which are the primary organization interacting with the people. You have lines, social media, that you can even volunteer information without physically going there. So that is not an excuse, but there are certain information you also need to personally and physically give. But I would advise that those people who are doing this, who want to volunteer information, should look for senior officers, even though the senior officers too can compromise. You see what happened in Guadume, where a captain killed policemen who are on duty because they want to compromise or cover up some issues.
So it's in our best interest to take necessary precautions even when providing information, exactly. But it's something that we must do for Nigeria to move forward and for the security agency to succeed.
We must all get involved.
Thank you. It's been great chatting with you.
Thank you.
We've been talking with Mike Ejiofor. He's a security consultant, former director with DSS. See something, say something. Take the requisite precaution to ensure that you are safe. Do your due diligence for you, for all of us, and for Nigeria. You're watching Weekend Deal. A break beckons. Don't go anywhere. It's time for us to journey to Awka in Anambra State. Their focus today is on the impact that rural urban migration has on infrastructure.
At 2018, with an annual population growth rate of 2.21%, Anambra State has over 60% of its population in the urban areas. The major urban centers are Onitsha, Nnewi, and Awka, the state capital. Generally, the shifts to urban centers from the rural areas are usually caused by problems such as decayed infrastructures.
If the government should start thinking to that direction, giving clean water in the rural communities, providing for health, investing on proper healthcare machinery in the rural area, I don't see why people will be coming down to the urban city.
Although the Anambra State government has made significant effort in the provision of good road network in communities, rural migration has not declined.
We want able-bodied, educated people to stay in the villages, to stay in the rural communities, work not only as farmers, but actually do a lot of things. With industries being sited in rural communities like Iwariam, we even have a university there. So people can actually stay in rural communities and be gainfully employed.
They are not interested to open their place so that the place will be developed. They're basic to be going out and develop other states, other villages. Or they don't know that when they open their place and develop their village, people will be always coming through and here and there.
However, rapid deterioration of the rural economy leading to poverty and food insecurity has been identified as a major cause of rural to urban migration in the state.
The rural areas suffer because they is not enabled to develop the way it could have developed based on their input. The economy there is not allowed to grow because it has been denied of the input of these active young people who could have impacted heavily on the economy.
The issue of rural migration has been a problem because the people in the rural areas are looking for greener pastures. As a result, a lot of pressure is being put in the urban areas, which affects the quality of life.
They come in unprepared, they haven't made arrangements for accommodation, they haven't made proper arrangements for their living. And they find that a good number of uncompleted buildings, they simply move in there. And by moving in there, some of them now, because they are uncharted places, they can use it as a base for criminal activities.
Overall, many recommend that government should make and implement policies on provision of functional basic amenities, such as electricity, pipe-borne water, good schools in the rural areas, as well as establishment of industries in both rural and urban areas that will, to an extent, accommodate those who are unemployed.
That package reached us from NTA Oka. It goes without saying that when we make our rural areas very attractive and there's infrastructural development, people would love to stay there. In fact, we'll now have urban to rural migration. In the course of the week, I had a chat with the Co-Marshal of the Federal Safety Corps. You get to be a part of that chat at this time. According to research, in 2019, Nigeria has 11.8 million licensed drivers who utilize Nigerian roads. That's why it's important to talk with the Co-Marshal of the Federal Safety Corps, Dr. Boboyomi, to know how these licensed drivers utilize our roads in terms of obeying traffic rules and regulations that govern the road's usage and maintain the safety of lives and property. Co-Marshal, Thank you for making the time to have this chat.
Thank you very much.
Many people know that there are different classes of driver's licenses. Many are more familiar with Class A and B, but we do know that we have classes A to J. Tell us about the different classes and how they impact road usage in terms of safety.
Well, I think before talking about different classes of driver's license, we should talk about the process of obtaining the license itself. And presently in the database, I think we have over 6 million of the new schemes starting from 2011. And the success story is that we are moving on every day now. The process is much easier. We have two different types of processing of a driver's license. The first one has to do with the fresh applicants, and the other one for renewal. For a fresh applicant, he must first go through a driving school to undergo 26 modular courses. After he passes from the driving school, then he moves to the next module, that is to be tested by the testing officer in the vehicle inspection office. It's a statutory responsibility of the VIOs. And once the applicant passes the test, the next stage is to pay the prescribed fee with the State Internal Revenue Service or the Board of Internal Revenue, and thereafter, then it's referred for the capture, which is done. Then you get your temporary license for a fresh applicant. The beauty is that before, in the last 6 years ago, it takes about 90 days to get your the permanent one. But now, a maximum period of 2 weeks. There's been a lot of system improvements. And again, one thing you can also testify to is that the complaint of not receiving license or carrying the temporary license and being restamped and restamped is out. We must commend the support of the government for improved technology. That is why you see the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy has done well in bringing all the agencies doing the key IT work together. And with the way NIMS is going now, to harmonize all the biometrics administration, which is their statutory responsibility. That is the first process. So now it depends on the categories. You have the A for the motorcycles and tricycles. Then you have the B for private, for people like you. You don't drive trucks. Then you have category C, D, and those who are driving articulated vehicles, commercial drivers, handicaps up to J. You don't call them disabled, you call them handicapped. Somebody may be handicapped. Even if your one finger like this goes off, you become an handicapped person. That means the system is not complete, so you get that one. And I think the issuance of driver's license is a tripartite arrangement collaboration by the various the Joint Tax Board, those are the State's Internal Revenue Service, then the FRSC, and the VIOs who are saddled with the testing. Once they pass, then they go to the next stage. Because the key issue of driver's license is the road tax. It's within the purview of the state. What the court does is just to capture, because the database resides with the federal government. It's part of the critical infrastructure assets of the federal government.
Well done, I must say. It does make it easier. And when the process is easier, Nigerians don't have any excuse. Still talking about road usage. Now you have your driver's license and you are using the roads. But oftentimes we have come to see that possessing a driver's license does not automatically mean that this person is going to adhere to all the rules and regulations that govern road usage. For example, research also shows that the Shagamu Road, the Lagos-Ibadan Road, are very busy areas. And some people drive at night, sometimes without what they are required to have before they can make such journeys, like their rear lights and some other things. We do know there are penalties, but because these things perhaps happen more often than they should, some people may wonder, are the penalties being enforced? Are they adequate?
Having a license does not mean you are fully committed towards an enhanced safe road culture, even though you have been trained through 26 modular sessions on enhanced
road safety management on the use of the roads. When you're on the express, you're supposed to remain on the right lane, except while overtaking. And but you see trucks, other vehicle owners, they keep to the fast lane. When you when you press the on, somebody will say, "Climb my head." And there's a serious offense. We have introduced the penalty point system now. So I quite agree with you, but on the consequential management, the issue is that the penalties are no longer adequate as it was in the case in the 90s. Some of these fines are still the same fines of 1992 to date. Imagine use of phone while driving, 4,000 naira. It does not serve as deterrent. That's what I agree with you. The present fine system regime does not serve as deterrence to other road users. And when we have made a proposal to National Assembly that the minimum fine should be 50,000. So if you use phone while driving and you pay 100,000, you won't try it again. We've seen cases where the patrol teams, they arrest people for using phone while driving, and they come to the office, they ask for the POS machine. They bring out their cards and they pay. And as they're going again, they're still doing the same. It's not.
It's easy to pay.
It's easy. So those are the problems we're having.
There's been talk in different nooks and crannies of Nigeria that very soon we may see personnel of the Federal Safety Corps perhaps armed. And Nigerians wondered how, why?
Mr. President is the number one security officer. It lies with him to give the final nod. And it's at the appropriate time, Mr. President will decide when the corps can bear arms. But for now, we collaborate with other security agencies to ensure the safety of lives and property and our own personnel too. They are to ensure that they are well protected, even though some of the personnel have been trained, about 5,000. Again, we get support from other security agencies to ensure that all these critical assets are well secured. I think that is that for now. And if there's any need, we must appreciate the Inspector General of Police, our good brother, and the Director General of Department of State Services. We've been getting the best support back up from them. I think for now, I'm okay until Mr. President otherwise decides.
It makes for a more governable country.
Yeah.
And it builds more patriotic citizens. Let's talk about schools and school children. Because they are innocent, because perhaps they are young, and because it's easy to imbibe good and lasting qualities at that age. I know in times past, you have bonded with them in a special way to spearhead important messages to create more enlightenment for Nigerians. But for this year, half of the year, school children were not in school. How did you continue to push that?
The essence of Road Safety Club is to catch them young. And don't forget, the National Council on Education approved the infusion of road safety into the school's curriculum. That is the greatest thing the government could have done in respect of that, to have road safety. So that means they are being taught, and there are some educational books, the highway codes. So, and one thing tickles me when some parents tells me that, "Oh boy, you allow my daughter to be harassing me while I'm driving. My daughter tells me, Mommy, you must not use phone while driving." I have a sense of fulfillment. Now, I have a wish. I wish I can have a safety club in all the schools. And that's an ideal situation.
Are you working towards that? Is it possible?
We need the support of the state government. You know, I cannot bear the cost alone. That is the key issue. But we've seen some multinationals, they've taken it as a project. I've supported FRSC every year. They kit about 200 schools.
As their corporate social responsibility.
Yes, so if other organizations too can, you see, I like that question. If we can do more to get our children to imbibe safe road culture, I tell you, road traffic crashes will drop significantly. There's no way a daughter will tell the mom, "Mommy, fasten your seatbelt. Mom, don't use phone while driving. Mom, the maximum speed limit is 100 on the expressway." It means that this thing is trickling down gradually. If we can get the state government support and get all the children to be members of Road Safety Club, 1, 2, the curriculum being taught by the teachers in schools. The children now know that, one, road safety is to preserve lives. Road safety is for you to ensure your own safety on the highways. When you're on the road, you keep to the right lane. When you are driving, you don't use phone, you don't drink and drive. When you're tired, you park. Catch them young. They start developing that culture. By the time to get to 16 years, when they can start going for driving lessons, they're already vast in road safety. By the time they are 18 to obtain their license, that has become a culture already. Enlightenment is continuous, education is continuous, advocacy is continuous. Now, with the current COVID second wave, that has been our focus in the last 2 weeks now, advising people to wear face masks, wash your hand, and keep a safe distance. Those are part of the things we've been talking about on the station. And we go to the motor parks, we continue to ensure the safe distance. And it's a big part of the things that is a big challenge for this end of the year patrol now. The transporters want to maximize the profit, the trips to make more money. We are trying to say keep safe distance. The plank is this: the presidential directive on COVID-19 must be obeyed. It's not bubble, it's government, and it's a global issue. A lot of people have lost their lives due to this. And the best thing is prevention.
We have been talking with the Co-Marshal of the Federal Safety Corps, Dr. Pobui Oyeyemi. We wish you well in 2021. Keep us abreast of all your happenings. We'll take a break now. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We've learned something today. When you see something, say something. But be cautious, be diplomatic, but be relentless too, because the nation depends on you for your accurate judgment and information for security agencies to work with. Yes, COVID is real, is out there. Take all the necessary precautions for yourself, for your family, and for the nation. A nation like Nigeria that is growing, we need infrastructural development. We need increased security. And of course, we continue to pray for Nigeria. God bless Nigeria. Have a great week. Bye-bye.